all for doing that. Well,
Sure.
thanks for having me. We just want to start with saying that this is a brave space, it's confidential, in the sense of we're not going to use names as far as like elders, so if you want to try to use their just elderly friend, or, you know, we're not going to name anything. We are recording this, so you guys know. Depending on what we all say, we will edit out things that we don't want to share on social or whatnot. So don't feel like, feel like you can, this is a safe space and you can say what you'd like. So I'm just gonna go through and ask some questions. I think we'll answer, two people can answer each question as we go through. If you feel like you have a good story to share, you can speak up, and you can raise your hand if you feel better about that, or whatever. Okay. So first, we'll ask everybody to sort of answer what made you first decide to become a volunteer, and why do you stay?
Okay, so I volunteer a lot at different places, and then when I retired, I wanted something more, something different. So that's why I came. And I stay because I love it. There's lots of different opportunities, so that's what keeps me interested too. I can do a whole bunch of different things. So, and then the relationships that you build with people.
Well, the way I started was a little indirect. My daughter was a senior at Macaulay High School, and she had to do a community service project. So one of the options was to adopt an elderly friend, and they needed a chaperone. So I came along with my daughter Laura and her friend Anna, and so we went up and we met my older brother, or my big brother. Can I call him Charles? Am I allowed to? Charles is passed. So we met him, and they wanted to make sure there was chemistry between us and our big brother, and there was. We got along really well. And then after the 6 weeks or whatever was fulfilled, my daughter and her friend were gone. And they were doing their thing. And I thought, I've never done anything like this before, and Charles and I got along really well. So I said, I'm gonna hang in there and continue to see him. So 15 years later, that was. We would go out to dinner or a movie, and we could share guy talk, that type of thing. He liked to talk about sports and politics, and I think, without me taking up too much time, he was really smart. He was a really smart guy. I learned as much from him as he learned from me, so I got a lot out of it.
I'm Kathy Rolfes. I started volunteering with Little Brothers 19 years ago. It's hard to believe, but I remember it very well. From the time I came in here as a new volunteer and met Jack Henn, and he did the orientation and in the interview. I was drawn to Little Brothers. My father had recently passed away. He lived in a nursing home, and when he passed, not only did I miss him, I missed the relationships that I had built with other people that lived at that facility. And but I had no real reason to go back there anymore. So I searched the internet for volunteer opportunities working with elderly, and found Little Brothers. And I was surprised that I had been up and down Coleraine many times and didn't know that they were here. And it was a good fit for me. I really, the mission hit home. I am an only child. My husband and I have no children. And so I could see where, as you get older, how easy it could be to be isolated and lonely.
Hi, I'm Kathy Evie, and the reason I got involved with Little Brothers is because I grew up in a 3-generation home, and I lived in a 3-generation home for up till I was almost 50. So I was very aware of dealing with older people. I loved my grandmother immensely, and when I was at Procter & Gamble, I was looking through the volunteer conference. There was something in there about Little Brothers, Friends of the Elderly, and I knew, I always wanted to volunteer. When I retired, I told myself, I'm gonna work with the elderly. So I tucked it away, and then when I retired, I did apply, and here I am, 13 years later, so I'm here now, yay! It's everything I thought it would be, and more, truly.
Can you offer advice on building rapport with elder friends and long relationships?
Oh, yeah.
The advice I would give is just be an active listener. I think I mentioned that to Jayla when I was talking to her. That's made me become an active listener. I think what you learn is that it's not about us as volunteers, it's about them. I think a lot of people in society don't think that elderly people are relevant anymore. And I think a lot of elderly people don't feel relevant. People, all of a sudden, one day, people stop asking their opinion. People stop, thinking they're pretty, they feel like your time has passed, you've moved on, we're moving on to the more exciting people. But they're not. I mean, the elderly people have a lot to give, and they've got a lot of experience that you can mine, and there's a lot that you can get out of it. So I would just say become highly interested in your big brother, big sister, and that probably is the thing that will lead to the most fulfillment for you as well.
I think the consistency is important too, not only if you're a visiting volunteer, which I am too, to have that, but like movie night, I mean, it's like our little community, and we all come together once a month, and we all get caught up on each other, and build that rapport over time, so, and that takes time, so when you first start volunteering, you may not feel that so much, but the more you keep doing it, you keep spreading into the same people, and they love us too, and they're hugging us, and all this good stuff, so.
I guess my advice would be to accept people where they are, and not try to fix their problems. And you may not always agree that they're making the right choices, or especially regarding their maybe living alone when you're concerned about their safety. But if they're adults, and if they're able to make that decision, learning to respect their decision and accept them where they are.
I think that's a nice segue too, to can any of you talk about any life transitions that you've supported your elderly friends through?
Well, one of them is my little story I'm gonna talk about, so I won't delve into that, because that's my story, and that's the death of a pet. That was a huge life transition. And then I have a telephone reassurance person, a lovely lady I talked to, and her daughter passed. And working with her through that, it's, you just pray that you say the right things and you be there for the person, and it's empathy. We've all gone through deaths of family members, but it takes on a different, a different plane when you're dealing with our elderly friends. And it was lovely to work with her through that, and we've become much closer going through that. So yes, dealing with death, of course, is always traumatic, so I'll just stop there.
Sure. A little less dramatic is I do a lot of on-call, take people to medical appointments and stuff. So there have been a couple cataract surgeries, seem to be my specialty for a while, but they're really scared. And I was a nurse for 47 years, so that seems to help a little bit too, so I can tell them what to expect and kind of guide them through that. But there was a gentleman, God bless him, he had a third world cataract, and he had let it go for so long. That's what the doctor said. She didn't know if she could actually get it out or not. And he had some developmental issues, and Julie and I worked with him, and we worked for weeks and weeks and weeks leading up to it, because he was so scared. And before he went in, he gave me his contact numbers for in case he died during the surgery. I mean, he was so scared. Then we celebrated afterwards, and then he called me not long ago,
Then also, the next question is kind of, what are some challenges with our program? So would you like to speak more about like some of the challenges with the on-call program? I know you're
Well,
involved in that.
a lot of the on-call is, you know, you're taking them to doctor's appointments. The only challenge there is trying to figure out exactly where you're supposed to go, but part of the problem is we don't have enough on-call volunteers, so it really is, I enjoy it. We have different people that you see consistently. There's somebody that I've been driving a lot, and she's also going through a lot of health crises and stuff too, so that helps for her to have this consistent person to take her. So, you know, it's developing those relationships again, seems to really help, but, you know, if you are interested at all, you know, talk to me later. It's really a fun, thing that we do. It's my favorite thing to do.
Can the rest of you speak to maybe some challenges with telephone insurance or visiting volunteers?
I think making that commitment as a visiting volunteer to visit your elderly friend at least twice a month. And we want people to take that seriously. You know, we don't want them to think it's a good idea for a couple months and then say, you know, I'm really busy, and because then it's well, certainly a letdown to the elderly person, and you know, then they might question, did I do something wrong? So we want people to consider it carefully, but it's so, that the nice thing, you have complete flexibility. Unlike some of our scheduled outings and programs, you do it when it's convenient for you. And if you work, it can be in the evenings or on the weekends, convenient for you and your elderly friend. So, given that, you know, twice a month, I think the rewards, you know, greatly outweigh the time commitments.
And just to piggyback on what you're saying, Kathy, too, a phone call helps a lot. Phone calls, you know, once a week, once every 2 weeks even. Because my big brother started having physical ailments toward the end. The last few years, he couldn't get out as much. And I really missed that, you know. So I would just make sure I called him and, you know, be on the phone for a half an hour just talking sports, politics, just whatever, you know. That just, you can just hear at the end of the conversation in their voice how much they appreciate that. You know, just that somebody thought about them and wanted to hear their opinion on something, you know. They don't get asked that a lot.
I just have to brag a little bit about my current friend. You know, it's certainly not expected, but each and every time I see her, a few days later I get a thank you card in the mail. And it's like, you know, I feel like, you know, you really, you know, this is, and I don't want, you know, I would never say, you know, this is what I committed to do, but she just never takes it for granted. You know, each time she reaches out to thank me, and I just get a real kick out of it.
And my elder actually even texts messages, so. We do. She can't do, internet very well, but she can do text. So we just, you know, sometimes just send a brief thing, you know, or in between our visits.
What characteristics make a volunteer successful?
It's moving that way now.
And Don, we can barely hear your question over here.
Okay. What characteristics make a volunteer successful?
Patience, 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 patience. Empathy, but patience. I have learned, and I'm still learning, you gotta build in time when you're gonna pick people up. You know, it never runs like clockwork. Build in extra time when you're picking them up, because more often than not, something happens. But no, it's patience. Coming from the corporate world, you know, you want things to get going, you know, you're in a meeting, let's go, let's get to the point, come on, let's go. And that's not the way it is with our elderly friends. It's you step back, and like Kathy said before, you join them in the space where they are. And so definitely it's patience for me.
And reliability, if you say you're gonna do it.
Right.
you have to do it.
Yes.
I think you might have mentioned too, before Kathy, about trying not to fix things, you know. Just a lot of times, some people just wanna vent, you know, they just wanna talk. They don't wanna have you throw out all your suggestions on how you can make their life
And
better.
that's
or whatever.
hard not to.
Yeah, it is
Hold
hard,
back.
yeah.
Especially when they're unsafe, and it's
Yeah.
really hard, yeah.
Yeah.
But you can hear it at the end of the conversation after you just listened to them
Right.
and didn't say a thing, and they're like,
Right.
thank you. For what? For listening, you know?
What are some ways, that you've been involved with programs where you feel like you're making a difference in the world? You've kind of already spoken to this.
I can speak to when we would have the holiday parties, especially Christmas, you know, you see all the joy in the room, from a lot of people who might otherwise just be sitting alone in their own living room. Just seeing them all together, you know, a bunch of people of like age, and they're all just enjoying themselves, and probably more outside themselves than they ever are typically. That's when I really see that, hey, we're making a difference here, you know.
And birthday visits are just, some people have never had a birthday cake, that just amazed me, or they've never had a present. And a lot of the people that I've done birthday visits for are not necessarily people that come to the outings here, or, you know, someone we see a lot. So I've never met these people before, but they're just so touched, and, you know, they put the birthday stuff together. We just deliver it, so you don't have to get anything together, but, yeah, they get flour and they get a cake with their name on it. That is something that's really impressive to them. Their name is on the cake. Then they get a bag of gifts and stuff, so.
And movie night too, I can speak to that. You ever seen anybody so excited to see Back to the Future for 40 years? You know, they're so excited, you know? You know, have a little free food and stuff, and it's just a big party for them.
And see their friends.
Yeah.
And I think the friendships that develop, not only between the volunteer and the elderly, but between the elderly, they develop friendships, and between us volunteers. I mean, I've met some of the nicest, best people I've ever met in my life through Little Brothers.
I was gonna put a plug in for Card Club, I'm just saying. Yes, and we have Randy and Mary Jo, myself, we're the volunteers for Card Club. And I don't say that because I got it started, because I recognized a need. Again, I grew up in a 3-generation home. You played cards on Saturday night. My parents invited their friends over on a Saturday night. You had Limburger cheese and stinky stuff.
And beer.
You know, and beer.
Cold beer.
But I grew up with that. Adults play cards, and we didn't have anything like that. But I only say that because today I was speaking with an elderly friend about tomorrow's Third Thursday, and I'm picking her up, and she says, you know what? I just love cards and Wild Wednesdays. She said, I love Wild Wednesdays and Card Club. Those are my favorite. And I thought, well, thank you for saying that. So I only threw that out because they just speak up. They go, this is what I like. You know, these things are important to me. Movie night is huge. It's just amazing. The one thing they really want to come to, and I make sure that they're going to get there. So, yeah, I'm sorry to put a plug in for cards.
Can you share something you've learned about yourself while volunteering?
That might be the hardest question.
That's tough.
Maybe what I've learned is that it doesn't take a lot of effort to make a big difference. You know, you don't have to feel like you're, carrying bricks or whatever, or doing something really strenuous or, way out there to make a difference in somebody's life. Just showing up, I think I probably learned that more than anything. just being present.
Present in the moment. True.
Have you ever felt hopelessness, despair, discouragement, or burnout related to volunteering? Great.
We're
doing our job. Thank you.
I would say, no, not really, but when I have encountered, problems, and I have always reached out. I recognize when something was kind of above my, skills and abilities, but yeah, so, but I was confident that, I could reach out to the staff and they would lift it off my shoulders and, whatever that involved, whether, outside resources, different agencies, but they always, gave me good advice on how to handle, difficult situations.
What is one piece of practical advice you would give to someone starting out?
Take it slow.
Yeah.
Pick one thing that you're interested in. Boundaries is something I have to work on, cause
Yeah.
I don't say no very well. So yeah,
And again, going back to the patients, it's huge, it is, and, listen to what they're saying, because they're telling you so much. And really, they're telling you a lot through the words they're saying, and sometimes you just gotta dig a little bit deeper, but, just listen to them. They, like you said, they just wanna vent sometimes, they just want somebody to listen to them, because they're ignored. Even we're ignored, us older, we're getting older, and we're getting ignored, okay? We're becoming irrelevant, so, yeah, that's my advice.
I think it's also important that they wanna ask, they feel like they wanna do something for us too. So they wanna ask you questions about what's going on with you too. They don't want it to just be all one-sided either. So that gives them some purpose and some, reason to input the conversation.
A suggestion, I would say, at the beginning, don't overcommit. At one time, my enthusiasm, I met two people that I liked very much, and I was a visiting volunteer to two people at the same time, and in hindsight, it was just, more than so, I would just say, don't overcommit.
Is there anything else that we've left out that you would like to share?
I'm really glad I found Little Brothers.
Yeah, me too.
It's really been a blessing to my retirement for sure.
Yes. I tell people that Little Brothers is the real deal. I said, I'm gonna join them, but I'm gonna step back. I'm not gonna really get into it too much. I'm gonna watch. Well, it didn't take much.
Yeah.
Really, and I mean that sincerely. They're the real deal. When they say it, they mean it. They do it. And, I can't say enough wonderful things about Little Brothers, and Yogi has been a mentor to me, and I use her as a role model, and it's everything they say it is. So please join us if you're on the fence.
Through Little Brothers, I've really learned how selfless people can be too. I mean, just when you think that you're giving of yourself and there's somebody else out there that's giving 10 times as much, Yogi and Randy, I mean, I just can't believe how much they've given over the years. I'm like, they do this out of the goodness of their heart, they're not making $1 million doing this,
Yes,
and
we
I'm just
did.
like, man,
Good for you.
there's people out there who really love doing this, they really love, catering and helping other people, so that was really refreshing to learn.
The benefit I've received and still continue to learn as I get older, is to try to face the challenges of aging with optimism. And I'm amazed at some of, well, all of our elderly friends and their positive attitude. And I think, gosh, I'd probably be boo-hooing all the time. But I think it's teaching me and hopefully shaping my outlook about aging positively and gracefully, and being grateful, and learning when it is time to transition, to kind of let go of those, material things, the stuff in the house, the house, and hopefully learn from them that it's, part of life is change, and I hope to handle it as well as some of my elderly friends have handled it.
And I didn't realize that elderly loneliness was really like a thing. I thought, well, everybody's got family, everybody's got friends, what? And you find out, no, everybody doesn't have family and friends. And people getting involved in their lives makes a big impact on them. And I was surprised to find that out, just what a need there is for that.
There are a lot of them out, a lot of people like that out there. Yes.
Do you have a story you wanted to share?
Well, I have a lot of stories, but I'll be here all night. No. We're good.
Well, I'd like to open it up for questions, if you all have questions for our panel. Anyone wants to go first?
It's not so much for the panel. What happens when people don't get rides to their doctor's appointments, et cetera? They just don't get there, or what happens?
Sometimes they have to reschedule. We will work, and I'll let Zaire maybe talk to this, but like a lot of insurance companies will pick you up door to door. That's like more of a thing. So we will share resources. But we try to find somebody to take them to the doctor's appointments. I mean, that's our goal. But there are a lot of different resources that are popping up, which is also nice. And then maybe we can have somebody go meet them there. Staff is also like linked in when needed for people, but sometimes you have 3 people with an appointment on the same day. So that can get hard. Zaire, do you want to say anything else about that?
Yeah, so to piggyback off of what Don said, I'm a huge advocate for our elders' needs, so it's hard to tell me no. I'm very determined. So where there's a will, there's a way with me. I'll always find a way, and it always works out. So with resources, Council on Aging, they offer same-day appointments sometimes, and so I try to work with Council on Aging and other resources. One that we're tapping into now is the Metro Now, and that's door-to-door, $2. So if we don't have a volunteer available to take them, so we're trying to explore what that option is. Or it looks like working with our elder and rescheduling an appointment for a volunteer that may be available.
Thank you.
And if you all know of additional individuals who would be interested in supporting as a volunteer for the on-call, so that it is not as much of a problem where we don't have to have as many people reschedule, that would really be the key to help us as an organization. So we appreciate the commitments in the room, but if you know of additional people who may have this time, the flexibility, and the availability, we would appreciate you sending them our way.
We wanted to bring up too, like there is an umbrella insurance policy when you're driving elders to and from events and to doctor's appointments. You are covered under the Little Brothers insurance company, if that was, if that was a barrier at all.
And so they either call you or usually they email you, what the needs are, and, I mean, I feel like I need to do it, but you don't have to. It's totally up to you whether you're available or whether you're able to, go to a certain place, it's not a commitment before you actually have the needs presented, so.
Any other questions?
If I wanted to become a visiting volunteer or volunteer general, what would be that process?
Well, I have
Or for all the programs?
I've enjoyed being involved, On the front end of that process, when someone expresses interest, they're either new and they come to orientation and it's, one of the things they wanna do, or sometimes they might attend a party or make a delivery and they really hit it off with someone. And they say, I think I'd like to see them more. I would, like to take the next step. So once that volunteer expresses interest in, to one of the members of the staff, the next step, we have a maybe 45-minute to an hour interview where or if I'm not available, a member of the staff would sit down and talk to the person to kind of get to know the volunteer a little bit better and their likes, and it helps us with the matching process. Also, the volunteer it's open to express your preferences and your boundaries, and I would like to visit someone, but it needs to be within a certain geography, or I don't want to drive more than a half an hour, or I would prefer a male or female. And it's an opportunity to kind of get into issues like, what if the elderly friend had a pet? Is that okay? How do you feel about if someone is a smoker? Or if they're able to get out, are you able to accommodate a walker or a wheelchair? And it's always fine to say, no, I'm not comfortable. So once we have that interview, I bring the information back to the staff who knows the elderly. We actually have a waiting list of elderly who are waiting for a visiting volunteer. But we want to make it the best match we can. We know it's a big commitment, and we want it to be good for both the volunteer and the elderly friend. So if we have someone in mind, sometimes there's more than one person that we think will be a good match, then the next step is to introduce, if the volunteer has not already met the elderly, we go for just a casual, informal visit to meet them. And, rarely, but it may happen that the volunteer, for whatever reason, thinks maybe this isn't a good match. And we would always rather know that up front, rather than, And then we also ask the elderly if they would like to be visited by this particular volunteer. I've never known anyone to say no. I can't think of an instance. So then when it's, when both elderly and volunteer have met and would like to continue to build a friendship, then we make it official. We make sure the volunteer does understand they're making a commitment to visit at least twice a month, phone calls as well, and then they live happily ever after.
And how long is that commitment for?
We say a year. We at Little Brothers we are flexible. There's always an exception to everything. I say that, for example, like we have had maybe like a student who is here in Cincinnati during college. So like 3/4 of the year, and then they're not from the area, and then they go home for the summer. I mean, of course that would be okay, but we generally say at least a year.
What are the time frame of the visits? Like how long do you stay and interact?
It's a good question.
It's a good question. It varies. It probably would depend on if the elderly person was in a nursing home or if they were living independently, and that's something we would ask at the interview. I mean, do you have a preference? Some people do. Some people say either independent or nursing home, wherever the need is greater. Typically in a nursing home, the visit might be a little bit shorter. Just from my experience, could be 20 minutes, a half an hour. If someone is living independently and if the volunteer is willing if they're able to get out and the volunteer is willing to take them out, you know, that opens up a lot of possibilities, you know, for shopping, for lunch, for movies, lots of different things. So then that visit might be longer. It might be a couple of hours, for instance. But on our end, we don't prescribe a certain amount of time, just the 2 times per month. And that the volunteer does report at the beginning of each month, you know, quick, easy, yes, I saw my friend twice on these dates for 6 hours total, and I have, you know, no concerns, everything's fine. So, long story short, it really depends.
I think the time question is interesting too, because I think a lot of people ask that about birthday visits too. And birthday visits could be 10 minutes or much, much longer, like just depending on the person. Sometimes people really like the present and the cake, and they'll be like, let me walk you to the door. But there's so many people that really enjoy the visit too, so that's, it varies a lot. Any other questions? Well, we are going to all hang out more and eat all that food back there.
And drink
There's
wine.
lots of wine. And everybody will be here. Please keep asking questions and getting to know each other, and we're here to answer them. So, and thank you so much to our panel for coming out.